Welcome, everyone. We're all familiar with Zoom chats, and we've done many of them. This one is a little bit new for me. This is a webinar format, so for all of you who are joining that we can't see, welcome. And there is someone watching and listening, so please put your questions in the chat box, and they will be sending us those questions, and we are excited to be able to show you a little bit more about Chesterton Cor Jesu, have you meet the faculty, give you some more details that you've been looking for, and then also answer your questions. So before we begin, we have with us today all of our faculty members, and then also in addition, Amy Hunt. She is a retired Navy commander who has recently joined the Chesterton Schools Network organization. Some of you may have spoken with her or received an email from her. She is now Vice President for Formation for the Chesterton Schools Network. And one of her main jobs is to bring the Chesterton Cor Jesu to life. And she's done an amazing job bringing all of her skills and talents and knowledge to help us build this organization. And we are so thankful to have her. Amy, I'm going to put you in the hot spot. Can you just introduce yourself real quickly?
Yes, Andrew, thank you for that introduction. And as Andrew said, I am the Vice President of Formation for the Chesterton Schools Network. That means that I have responsibility for making sure that the curriculum and the spiritual, intellectual, and moral formation that your students receive are of the highest quality. And so we welcome you into this inaugural class of the Chesterton Cor Jesu online program. And as I look at the attendees list right now, many of those names look familiar to me. You may not have met me yet. Perhaps you've received an email or a phone call, but we've been poring over those lists with your names and information and inquiries, and are just so excited that you could join us here today. And we hope that this time will be fruitful for you, that you'll get your questions, we'll be able to address your questions and any concerns that you have. And just know that we are taking this journey together. So please think of us as fellows along the journey. And we're here to be a resource to you, and really are just so excited to get to know your students this year. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce Josh Russell first. Dr. Russell, I've had the pleasure of working with Josh for several years now. He's the headmaster at one of the Chesterton Academies in Peoria, Illinois. And it's just really tremendous that we get to give the gift of Josh to a wider audience. We're so excited about it. But because Josh, like many of us, wears so many different hats, he's actually going to have to be leaving soon. So I wanted to let him introduce himself first, and just tell us a little bit about the music program that he's already been offering to his students and that he hopes to bring to the Chesterton Cor Jesu family.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for the kind introduction. I appreciate it. So as we look at the music offering that we have here, we know that music is a powerful way to reach the emotions of listeners and those who participate in the music itself. We know that it is something that reflects the culture in which it was written, and we know that it was created ultimately as a way to worship God. And so these are the aspects that I hope to examine as we get into the Cor Jesu music program, and certainly the aspects of music that we're examining when we're live in the classroom at a Chesterton Academy. There are, of course, some limitations in terms of what you can do in terms of participatory nature of music when you're working together through technology. I hope that we can have a couple of participatory, tactile opportunities to experience making music in some way or another. It's always nice to be able to participate in the art and the craft before you go on to understanding its application to other places. But so we'll see how that aspect works out when we're looking at something at a distance. But we'll certainly be looking at the history of music in the West, the way that it integrates into our faith, the way it integrates into the church's history and liturgy, And then moving forward, looking at the way that it really reflects the other things that you're going to be learning in the other classes at a Chesterton Academy, the way that it reflects changing cultures, changing philosophies over time, and looking at specific examples. And what are those implications for us? What are those implications that we have, not just in understanding those other cultures, but understanding ourselves and the applications it has to our lives. So that's, I guess, kind of a big picture overview, kind of high level overview of what we'll be looking at. But that will be the music offering. So certainly a lot of the historical, philosophical, cultural nature. But we'll see what we can do in terms of participation.
Okay, so you were supposed to give us a little bit of your background, and I know because of your modesty that you tried to skip it. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to butcher it, and then you can correct me. All right. So Josh Russell is a doctor of music. He has several years. I'm going to say 12 years of collegiate teaching experience.
About 10 years of collegiate teaching experience.
That wasn't too bad. So 10 years of collegiate experience teaching. In music, and then he brought that love of music to the school that he helped found or helped start in Peoria, and it's been a wonderful journey for you guys, and I think it's been going really well. I'm just going to say one thing about the music. So there's certain moments in the curriculum where everything comes together, and the Rome pilgrimage is one of those, and we're very excited to offer that pilgrimage to the families of Chesterton Cor Jesu. The reason I bring it up here is because we have had separate schools going on some of these pilgrimages together, and it's one of the most unifying experiences for them, where they stand inside of a basilica or stand inside one of these churches, and they all start singing the same polyphony. So Josh, I'm just going to challenge you that we need at least one song, right? We need everyone to know at least one song, so that when we all come together, or the March for Life or Students for Life, or we're standing in a basilica in Rome somewhere, we can have that communal experience that's been so powerful for so many of our students.
That's right, and we saw that even at a micro level here a year ago, when our students in Peoria visited one of the other academies in the Chicago area, Chesterton of the Holy Family. At the end of the day, we sing one of the same pieces in choir, and the students got to sing together, and they actually got to dance together a little bit afterwards. And that shared experience, that shared culture is something that's obviously very central to the Chesterton idea, that these students get to see that they do share a culture across not only across the country and around the world, but even across time with other people in time. So we'll certainly find something there for them to do.
Great. Thank you so much. And I know, Josh, you have other things that you have to do, so we invite you to stay with us and be part of the conversation as much as possible, but we understand that you have to run it at a certain point. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, if questions come through, if you have questions about the music program, and it's one of the things, Kim, art and music, Kim is our art teacher, she's with us. The art and music has generated a lot of questions, just because that's so unique. And instead of going right to Kim, which would make perfect sense, I just want to introduce Justine, because Justine is just having a day. She had the best intentions of having a beautiful outing with her children, and she got stuck in traffic. There was an accident, so Justine is joining us from her phone in her car, and she's unsure about her connection. So Justine, thank you so much for your effort in being with us today, and I'm so sorry for everything that you're going through. If your connection gets a little bit stable, we'd love to hear from you. Right now it's flickering a little, but Justine works in Alberta, Canada at Chesterton Academy of St. Isidore, along with Stefan Johnson, whom we will be hearing from a lot more in a minute. And she will be teaching some of the 9th grade classes. So I believe it's Theology 9, Justine, you have Theology 9, and also Literature 9. Is that correct, Stefan? Yep.
And history.
Oh, she's doing the history 9. The history was at 2 different times, so I was wondering if you were going to be doing both of those. Or so Justine will be helping us out with our humanities, and so we're excited to have her on board. The Chesterton Cor Jesu the launch of Chesterton Cor Jesu, one of the reasons that it came about was because of this partnership that we were entering into with Chesterton Academy of St. Isidore. And Stefan is the vice president or vice principal at St. Isidore's. So would you be able to tell us a little bit more about your situation in Alberta, Canada, Stefan, and then also what you will be teaching?
Sure. So I guess the first thing that I'll throw out, because it surprises people from the States, is that in Alberta we have publicly funded separate Catholic schools that are so a faith-based but taxpayer-funded situation, which is quite a blessing. And so we have had then for 2 years of operation a online Catholic school, sort of great books in philosophy, but certainly not a classical approach. And so this year, then we are launching our Chesterton program, our sort of a school within a school, not sort of, a school within a school model, the Chesterton Academy of St. Isidore. And we are creeping up on I think 50 students full time, which is quite exciting. They are very, very good days. And so then I suppose if we're looking for blessings in hurricanes, it would be that all of this COVID has forced thought and conversations between all of us that have led us here then.
Yeah, and it's very exciting, and it really is your guidance and your experience with the online format that gave us the confidence to launch Chesterton Cor Jesu. So thank you so much for everything that you've brought to the table and all your guiding hands that has helped Emily and I in the beginning, and now Amy as well, understand exactly how to launch and host and provide an online academy.
Thank you, Andrew.
Later on, Stefan's going to be showing us, because there have been a lot of questions about, what does a course look like? What does that mean, an online course? And obviously, Stefan's been doing this for many years, and he has courses already available online in the learning management system in Canvas, and he's going to be walking us through that later on in our discussion. So that'll give you a really good visual of what your children will see as students when they open up one of their courses, or actually when they open up their Canvas webpage. Just to be completely honest and transparent, we will definitely be using Canvas as a learning management system. It's possible that it's going to be the only learning management system that we use. There is also the possibility that we will also, for this first year, be using Jupyter Ed as well. So those are things that are still being discussed, but we are very conscious and conscientious about making the experience for your children, for the students, as easy and seamless as possible. So we are working hard to do what we can to make that a reality. We are getting some questions, and Josh, before you leave, well, this is actually more of an administrative question. Can you register for the music class as a standalone course? And so the answer to that is, at this time, we would put you on a waiting list. Basically, what's happened is, like Stefan was saying, the enrollment has been very robust, both for Chesterton Cor Jesu and also for Chesterton Academy of St. Isidore. So we're pretty much at the point where we were out of space. So we were able to move things around a little bit and open up more spots. So whereas last week we had 12 spots and then 8 spots and then 3 spots, we have moved things around. So hopefully we should be, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have about 10 to 15 more spots available now. Just because the demand has been really great, and we want to offer this to as many people as possible. We are servicing also the Chesterton Schools Network schools, those schools that are in need of some assistance. We are offering classes to them, and then we will try and provide classes on a one-on-one a la carte basis. But for right now, we're going to hold those students on a waiting list, and we will definitely try and make sure that you get the benefit of having Dr. Russell as a music teacher. And then the question is, will there be an option for choir at all? And so, Josh, you're getting a little bit of pushback, so let's just go there, right? So it's difficult to do choir online, right? You can't do it in Zoom because de facto one person will cancel out all the other voices, right? So there is software out there, but we don't have access to that software. So I know we had discussed some ideas that you might have for bringing some type of music choir experience to the students.
Absolutely. And so certainly, you know, one of the things we'll see, and I see a comment in there to be aware of the hymns that the brick and mortar schools are learning. So certainly we're going to talk about those things. We're going to look at the really common chants of the church. So I'm thinking chronologically now. We'll look at some of the very common chants that every Chesterton student ought to know and be aware of and know at least parts of. We'll talk about some of the common hymns, and then we'll look at some of the really common great works of choral music that we're all doing. You have Thomas Tallis, If Ye Love Me, Ave Maria of Bibel, the Bogorodice, which is the Russian Ave Maria of Rachmaninoff. You know, there are common pieces that our schools are doing that we have as kind of a list that we want to expose our Chesterton students to as many of those as possible over the time. So we'll certainly be listening to those and experiencing the beauty of those. And I hope to find a way, maybe there's some ways, you know, I've been thinking about and contemplating that I can send out sort of a sample of a part of one of those that somebody could potentially record very in a low-tech way and send back. And we may have some ways that we can exchange, but to do a live choir through the technology is very, very demanding. And it is frankly somewhat problematic from a standpoint of trying to sync things up. But there will certainly be, it will not be just purely academic. We'll certainly be listening to some music and getting acquainted with some of those great works throughout history.
Right, so I just want to draw attention that Josh did actually use Rachmaninoff and the word common in the same sentence, and I don't know that that's ever been done before in history. So, yes, that's the level of music exposure that you can experience where Rachmaninoff is common, and that answers another question that one of our participants had in terms of, you know, learning what the hymns are that the brick and mortar schools are experiencing. And Josh, you and I did a recording along with Laura Alquist about the fine arts and particularly the music curriculum. And so I know that you are very, very aware of all of the music that's done in the four-year curriculum. And I guess you already answered that. You just mentioned several of the pieces. So we will definitely be bringing that tome to the online academy as well. And again, this holds for all of it, that, you know, the Chesterton Academy curriculum is being used by over 30 schools right now. And it's the same curriculum that we will be offering to your students. So there will be a lot of shared experiences. Obviously, the delivery method is different, but there is a lot of shared experience that we are going to be having with the Chesterton Schools Network family that is growing just exponentially. I'm sure everyone has heard this, but in case you haven't, that we have 18 schools this year, and next month we'll have over 30 schools that are starting, or that'll be running. So about more than 12 schools additional that are starting up in 2020 of all years. So Kim, let's just turn to Kim and finish the loop on the fine arts with some words about the art program, and very excited what we are able to do, even with the limitations of distance learning. Kim, you have a lot of experience with distance learning even before the COVID crisis. So if you want to unmute yourself and then just share some of your background with us. I'm just going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. We have a beautiful video that Chesterton Academy of the Holy Family made of you and the work that you've done and your beautiful artwork. So if you're okay with it, we'd love to share that with families later on. Oh, we can't hear you. Nope, it does not say that you're muted, but
is that better?
Yes, that's
better.
It. Yep, there you go.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Kim Roth, and I teach art and create art, and I love my topic. I started I have 5 children, and when my youngest went to first grade, I was able to sneak away for a little bit each week and study at the School of Representational Art in Chicago, which is an atelier run by Bruno Cerdo. The school was up and running for about 25 years, but it just recently closed. But it was based upon the classical training of the academies. And so we really trained our eyes to see what was in front of us and to faithfully reproduce what we saw in terms of proportion and value, color, edges, texture. And so getting all those tools in our toolbox then is what allows an artist to deliberately and intentionally make decisions about their own concept when they go ahead and put the paint to the canvas. So I'm very excited to be part of this program. I have been teaching. I started teaching in about 10 years ago, and in about 2014, also when I started with Chesterton Academy of the Holy Family, I also opened up a studio in my hometown where I teach children through adults. And so I've been teaching both in the studio as well as online. And it's been really a fruitful experience. For me, art is an opportunity to slow down and set aside all concerns and just really focus on beauty. And so it's a very fruitful and refreshing experience. So I'm excited to share that with your children. On my online classes, I will spotlight my easel. So instead of seeing me when we're drawing, your students will see my easel up close, and we'll be drawing together. They'll have a reference to work from, and we'll be learning how to begin, how to hold your pencil, how to see the gesture within the subject, how to create on top of that gesture big simple shapes and measure and make things proportionate and create a block in, and how to shade that block in so that it creates a sense of realism and depth on a flat surface. So I'm very excited to be sharing that with them. We will also be working with some topics besides drawing, we'll be working with some other basic art topics like art elements and principles, which are sort of like ingredients are to a cook, elements are to an artist. So how will an artist use line and value, color, things like that. And art principles are sort of like the recipe to a cook. They're the guidelines. No hard and fast rules, but certainly guidelines to help us be more successful. And we'll also be taking a look at some art history topics. And in the freshman year, we'll be starting at the very beginning with prehistoric art before any written records, that first language of art, paintings on the cave walls. So we'll be starting with that and moving through all the way through some of the ancient civilizations, including ancient Greece and Rome.
It's beautiful because, I mean, Josh, we've talked about this so many times, but the arcs that we build into the curriculum and, you know, showing the students the Christian anthropology and then the secular anthropology, and then encouraging them that they need to make a conscious choice at the end of senior year, and they're reading Everlasting Man, and it all goes back to Plato's Cave, which we do a freshman year, and the Everlasting Man starts with a man in the cave and then God in the cave, and I know Chesterton really highlights that aspect of those prehistoric drawings. So as you're talking, I see all the loops closing that are being presented and drawn out for the kids. So besides becoming phenomenal artists, and we've seen so many Chesterton Academy students becoming fine artists under your tutelage, Kim, that we're just excited to be, like with Josh, to bring this to a wider audience.
Very excited too.
Great. I'm going to take a little bit of a break and just share my screen real quick. And I'm just going to walk you very briefly through. Josh, do you have to go?
I need to head out. I've got to get to another meeting as it's our first week of school here and getting things going. But it's a real pleasure to join all of you, and I look forward to meeting the students very soon. So
right.
Thank you for
thanks for coming. Good luck.
My pleasure. Have a great evening.
Yeah. So before we talk more with Stefan and meet Reba, I'm just going to share my screen and walk you through what a week might look like, and then answer some of your questions. Let's see if I'm able to do this. So I made a little PowerPoint presentation that does not seem to be working. Okay, so for some reason that's not working, but I'm just going to click on the slides and you'll be able to see them. So a lot of parents have been asking about a weekly schedule. What is a sample weekly schedule? So here you'll see some of the times. These are all central time zone times, 8 to 8:50, 9 to 9:50, etc. I draw your attention here at 11. You have a shortened period, 11 to 11:25, and then 11:25 to 12, lunch period, and then some more class time. You'll notice that from 8 to 2:10 is roughly, it's a little bit less than a regular school day, but it's about a regular school day. So if you add in the schedule of live classes, which you can find in the brochure, you'll see math being offered twice a week, science, Latin, history, seminar, philosophy, theology, and then here's the art class. So these are being offered at fixed times. So these are the commitments that you're making in terms of fixed times, and we are cognizant of the fact that students don't like to be on Zoom for hours and hours. So there's a big chunk here on Monday morning and Wednesday morning, but Reba's going to talk to us more about seminar. That's going to be a fun opportunity for the students, and then also music, so that breaks it up a little bit. And then these are in the afternoon. And then here on Tuesday and Thursday, there's just two back-to-back, and then either a break in another class or nothing. And you'll notice that we didn't do any classes on Friday. So after you have the schedule of live classes and you add Mass and lunch, we are live streaming Mass from either Chesterton Academy of the Holy Family or from Hopkins, the original Chesterton Academy. And then time for lunch, then you can add in your daily schedules. And like I said, Stefan's going to show us what that daily work looks like. So for example, math class will have work 5 days a week. You're meeting 2 days. So here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, for example, if you wanted to, because you're free, you could add in your math time at that hour, right? Now, I'll be honest, I have children and they homeschool, and they don't tend to prefer the 8 o'clock hour. Or if they do, it's the 8 p.m. and not the 8 a.m. But this is just an example. This is one way in which they could fill their time. So that math class stays there. And then literature is 5 days a week, so you add that in. Science meets 4 days a week, so here are the other two science classes. Latin has work every day. Now Stefan is the Latin teacher, so he might not agree with this, but I gave them the shortened period, the 11 to 11:25. It's important that you do Latin every day, I think, as a Latin teacher as well. I think it's built in as 3 or 4 days a week, but every day for 25 minutes, I find that more fruitful than doing 2 days, 3 days, 45 minutes. So you have your Latin class, but then your daily Latin assignments that you come back to. Here's time to work on the art project that Kim would assign to you, and also the music project. There's only going to be one project a week for art and music, so that will take less time. So that gives you a pretty full schedule from 8 to 2 o'clock, somewhat of a normal school schedule. And again, the students have the flexibility of doing this later on, moving this around their extracurricular activities, doing it in the evening. There is time for meeting with the teacher if you wanted to schedule a meeting here with the teacher if you were having trouble, or at any other time, or have multiple meetings with the teachers. They'll be available with office hours and also for private meetings, and you will be able to schedule that with your teacher. So it wouldn't be school without homework, right? Now, when you're homeschooling, it's a little bit different because everything is homework, right? As everything is done at home. So in the evenings, there is still some work that needs to be done. Theology 3 days a week, philosophy and history. Again, this is just a sample. Some days it's going to be more than the half an hour, or some days it'll be less than the half an hour. But this will give you an idea of what an academic schedule will look like. And then don't forget, and this is my big thing, I tell all the students, if you're reading every day for 30 minutes, that you're doing most of the work of education, right? So we will assign you books, and these are not books that you should read on your own, but we will take you through them. But in addition to that, you should just always have a book by the bed that you're reading and enjoying. And that's not homework for the students, that's life work for everyone. So students and parents alike, everyone should just always be reading. Amy and I were just talking about a book that was really important to her. So we've formed a little bit of a book club, the two of us, and we're going to be reading this book together. So, you know, there is no vacation from reading. Reading is the vacation, like I like to tell my students. So that's just a very short sample schedule for how you could fill in your day and make it work. It's similar to the school, the normal amount of school time that they would spend, probably actually even a little bit less, especially if you count in the travel times and all of that. And again, it's completely flexible. That's just one example as to how you could do it. So let's get back to introducing the faculty and meeting everyone. Reba, we are excited to have you with us. Reba is part of the dynamic teaching team at Chesterton Academy of the Holy Family, along with Kim. And I had the great pleasure of sitting in on her theology class last year. And it was just such a dynamic conversation. And everyone was flipping around in their catechism and making points. It was just beautiful. And so let me introduce Reba, who will not be teaching theology, but will be teaching math and science. So she can do it all. And so Reba, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Math and Science 9.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Reba Lyon, and like Andrew said, I am also one of the folks here from Illinois, and specifically like Kim, I have taught before at Chesterton Academy of the Holy Family. That's actually where I'm at the moment, in one of their classrooms here. And last year, I was teaching Theology 12 and Math 9. This year, we're going to swap out the Theology 12, and I'm going to be teaching Science 9 and Math 9 at Chesterton Academy Cor Jesu. And a lot of people are, especially last year, were surprised by that combination with math and theology, but I actually majored. I have a degree in both of them. So that was the double major combination. And one of the things I really like about the Chesterton Academy curriculum that really drew me to it is that they don't necessarily find that as an odd combination because, as Andrew has been talking about, there are a lot of connection points. Actually, the connection points are everywhere within the curriculum. It's really well designed so that you are seeing overlap between these two things. And I think that was what drew me to have an interest in both things, is that I was seeing points of overlap. And so I'm happy to say that the curriculum really draws that out and draws it not only looks at, learning math and science, but of course at creator of math and science at the order of the natural world in that too. So Science 9, we are going to be, start with math. Math 9 is going to be Euclid. And I absolutely love Euclid. Andrew said he didn't like doing, or his kids didn't like doing math first thing in the morning. I love math any time of day, especially first thing in the morning. And Euclid is great because it's a great way, I think, to see connections in math. You are going to be doing proofs, which are not meant to be scary, but are actually a way of, you will actually be using some of the same kind of lines of reasoning and thought even in philosophy classes. So it almost is like a type of philosophy in itself. And it actually even draws connections to the fine arts as well, because especially with Euclid, you will be doing constructions. And so there's that wonderful element too. So I think it's a great point when it's bringing in kind of the math, the humanities, the fine arts in that Math 9. So I'm very excited about that. And the Science 9 as well has a lot of philosophical elements to it too. So not only learning about the physical world and elements of science, but also drawing the connections between philosophy and geometric connections too. So I'm very excited about both those classes, and I'll be teaching with the Student Success Seminar as well. I'm not sure if you want me to talk about that right now, Andrew, or save that for later.
Yeah, no, let's go there. So this is one of the really interesting things that we've brought to Chesterton Cor Jesu, which really tries to recreate the student experience that we have at the Chesterton Academies. One of the ways that we've been able to really integrate the students and encourage collegiality with them is through the house system. So we have this course that's designed to help teach students basic study skills, make sure that they're doing okay with the writing program, teach them about the Catholic worldview that we embrace at the Chesterton Academies, give them, in the second semester, that Catholic identity component switches to a study of the discernment of spirits by St. Ignatius of Loyola and how that impacts your discernment in your daily life, understanding God's will. So there's just, it's an exciting component because it has so many things to it. And then also it has SAT and CLT prep in there, but then also it has the house system in there. So can we just focus on the house system aspect, Reba? I know you've already had meetings with some other young dynamic leaders like yourself for bringing the house system to Chesterton Cor Jesu.
Sure. So one of the, well, last year, of course, all the schools had to go online. And that was one of the elements that students have really enjoyed here at Chesterton Academy of the Holy Family. It's a very important part of our school. And so we wanted to see how we could have that while being online. And so one of the blessings of that is that now that we do have Cor Jesu, we actually already have a little bit of experience bringing that. So I know we've been talking about different ideas for bringing some of the elements of the house system. But the way we currently have it at some of the other schools is there are 4 houses, and students have a house from the beginning of their freshman year. And this is kind of an element from the British school system. It's my understanding of kind of the origins of that. And actually families end up in the same house too. So you have brothers or sisters that come along. And so students have a lot of pride in their own houses, and we have different days like field days here at the brick and mortar schools. But a lot of the field days have more academic elements too. So we've been talking about different types of events that we have done that were successful. So some of the examples were house lunches. That's something that was really successful in whenever we were, when Holy Family went online. But also different ways to integrate even some of the more athletic challenges. I know like some of the ones we've done that we're trying to integrate that were like a find something and present on it kind of events. And I know we've been looking, there's even like ways to integrate, one of the other teachers was telling me there's ways to integrate running actually, so you are comparing your times even if you're not running at the same time. So actually a lot of cool ways to still bring that system into an online school and that camaraderie that comes with it too.
And one of the things that we do in the Chesterton Schools Network is we have an annual conference. And while that conference has been going on, we also have a program for Chesterton students called White Horse that they come to. And Reba, I don't know if you were involved when it happened 2 years ago, but I know your husband, who also teaches at Chesterton Academy of the Holy Family, was involved, and his brother, who's also a teacher at Chesterton Academy of the Holy Family. So there are a lot of lions at Holy Family. So I know that they were both involved. We have Kendra Posh, who's involved with the apostolate, and also Greg Billion, one of our teachers. He's another scientist philosophy teacher. So you're not alone with your math theology combo. We have science, math, and philosophy as well. And he also participated. So we hope to bring some of these really young, dynamic leaders into the program so that they can recreate this house system and really build that spirit of camaraderie in Chesterton Cor Jesu. So Reba, I'm excited. Thank you so much for everything that you've been doing and all the prep work that you've been doing. And I turn to Stefan Johnson, who is Chesterton Academy of St. Isidore director. He is the vice principal for St. Isidore's online academy. And really, he is the man behind the movement here. He brought a lot of enthusiasm and knowledge to Chesterton Academy or Chesterton Schools Network that enabled us to launch this. So Stefan, please tell us a little bit about your background, your school, the classes that you'll be teaching, and then maybe you can show us a little bit of a behind the veil glimpse of your canvas.
Sure, and I was just thinking of one of those godly ironies that we live sometimes, because I worked for 18 years in a brick and mortar Catholic high school, trying to kind of breathe some kind of a classical program into life, and there was Latin for 8 years before it fizzled out, and because the kids preferred shop class, and then reviving philosophy class and getting some kind of success there, and feeling this sense of loss as I moved into an online school, thinking I had left all these classical things behind. So it is a joy and a blessing to be working in this way. I'm going to show you in a moment our platform, which is Canvas, and what a fortunate time in history I think that we live in, that we can actually bring these very, very beautiful things to students in a very human and sometimes like humane way, just through some of the media rich, the very responsive kind of software that we have. You know, briefly, just speaking of myself, I describe myself as a recovering postmodernist, because I was a pseudo-lapsed Catholic for much of my university life, and then had again the providential moment of stumbling into a medieval history class taught by an atheist, but still he taught me accidentally church history, and I fell in love with the church first, and then Christ second. And so this kind of learning then that we're promoting here is very near and dear to my heart, because it's kind of was what brought me back as a revert. In terms of Latin, I guess, am I allowed to talk about the subjects before I dip into Canvas just a little bit?
It's all you, Stefan, from here
Oh,
on.
briefly. Okay.
So I'll throw in some questions here and there or answer them, but you go for.
All right. So Latin, such a beautiful language, and there's time for laughter, if you can believe it, in a Latin class. And the program that we're going to use is the Oxford Latin program, and the emphasis in it is on the classical. And so don't be surprised if you hear your children pronouncing things in a very odd manner. Why victis, weni, witi, wiki, and you know, these sorts of things that sound often ridiculous to somebody who's accustomed to ecclesiastical Latin. But the ecclesiastical Latin will come, and we'll get to these works, and especially in fourth year Latin when we start reading a lot of original works. In philosophy class, philosophy is exciting, because I think Greek philosophy is a proof that God did indeed make us, make our hearts to seek him, because in the dark, you know, the pagan Greeks, I think, were groping around in the dark without the light of revelation, and they somehow found the hem of the robe of God. And that kind of, that discovery of truth and goodness and beauty in their philosophy, I think, is preparatory, and it's them preparing themselves, or it's God preparing them for St. Paul bursting into the scenes in Athens. So introducing students to that kind of often rowdy kind of quest towards truth and that love of wisdom, while also learning how to think and think on one's feet. And maybe it's sort of like intellectual self-defense class is pretty fun stuff. But that's philosophy class and Latin class. Let's dip briefly into Canvas, and here's what a student then would see upon logging into Canvas. So you're seeing that, Andrew? I pressed all the buttons in the right sequence.
You did it. I'm seeing it.
Excellent. So when a student logs into Canvas, then what they come to is their dashboard, where they see their courses. So they will not see these courses, but they see their courses. And over on this right-hand section, they would even see their to-do list, which is a very useful prompt. Now I'll just dip into my Latin class, because it is the nearest to being presentable. And that would just take us to a home with some information and an introduction video. But the modules view, which we teach the students how to access, so that's not worry, is the bread and butter view. And then what you'll see here, so you see week 1, which will have dates associated with it, week 2, week 3, week 4. Each module is like a chunk of material then, and I'll just look at module 6 because it's fairly clean and has some substance. So each week is a chunk of material of video lectures, of a variety of activities or readings or assignments, or in this case exercises, Latin translations, etc. And one of the elements that our students have expressed, you know, a kind of pleasure with is that these videos, they're able to go back and view them again. Here we see our hapless instructor there. And once they've gone through the instructional video, they kind of just click next. And it's very much a breadcrumb trail for them. And they go into the grammar. Anybody who sees these Oxford Latin course texts at first sees these awful cartoons and think how childish it must be. If you're worried it's not a rigorous program, just flip to the back of the book and look at the bit on the son of Cicero, and you'll see what I mean. They jump through assignments, and so the nice thing about this is the student is never entirely on their own. In this case, I have a brief video giving instructions to the student about how to do the assignment, including a example that I walk them through. And so then they submit that work, they do the work, and they submit the work within Canvas. I mark it within Canvas. I'm putting my remarks to the student within Canvas, and then they just continue clicking on, and they have opportunity for class discussion with one another. It is a really robust and exciting platform of Canvas. So I'm quite excited to be able to be doing this work within this particular environment.
I think a lot of people are used to some form of learning management system, so I think they're going to be seeing analogies. I'm just always impressed by how robust Canvas is. It just seems like a really, I guess robust is the word that I just used, but this is really strong. Like you can pretty much do everything that you would want to do in the one area without having to leave.
Yeah, it's very much a self-contained online school where the student isn't having to leave.
Right. So that glimpse of the Canvas workload for one of the classes, along with the weekly schedule, perhaps gives you a better sense of what it looks like. We've had a lot of questions from parents about, you know, what is the expectation on the parents' side for doing this? And I would say, and this as an educator, and I've done this with my own children, you know, it's always not necessarily a red flag, but an indicator to me that we might be getting ahead of ourselves when the child needs the parent to be involved. We definitely want the parent to be involved in terms of the content. We want the dinner conversations to be hijacked by the Chesterton curriculum. And trust me, when they start doing logic, either in Euclidean geometry, conditional logic, or categorical syllogisms in the philosophy class second semester, once that starts to happen, you know, that's what you're going to be talking about. So we're happy to hijack the dinner conversation with the curriculum, but it's not our expectation, or nor is it really healthy, I think, for the parent to have to, you know, work through this material with the child. The child should be able to, on their own, work through this material. And I think it's an indication that they're in a comfortable area if they are able to be successful independently. So we do want them to be independent learners, and we want them to be successful with all the help that the system provides. And it's not, the idea is not that they're, you know, mom or dad is going to be teaching them the history lesson, you know, at 7 o'clock at night. Everything should be contained for the student in the Canvas platform. And if they need any help, the professors are there to assist them with the learning. But the goal is to make them independent learners, and that really is an indication, again, of that they're in a healthy learning space if they are able to do all of this on their own. I just had one question back here in the comment box about science. We are doing physics first, and if you look at the textbook that we offer, the Navarre series textbook, it will explain to you the whole idea between physics first. It's not the same as physics. You can think about it as physics minus algebra 2, and also as an intro to the sciences. That's just a very rough introduction to what physics first is. But it, in the classical sphere and also in education in general, there's a lot of movement towards physics first, just because it lays the foundation for all the sciences. So we do have a strong component in that introductory physics class of astronomy that ties in to the quadrivium and to geometry, but it is a physics first. So there's a question, can I put that on my transcript as physics? It is different from the traditional physics class. Physics that you take in senior year is more material and more advanced material. And the introduction to physics is more of an introduction to sciences. So
Will it include a lab? That's the other
will it include a lab? Yes, I think that there are lab components that will be recreated. So I don't really know the details on that. Reba and I will be talking about that, and we will be more in touch with you about the lab. It's always been my experience when I've been homeschooling my children that we have done lab recreations at home. And I know that when my daughter has taken a class using the Novara text, that there are labs in there. And so I have a video on my phone. We made a structure with toothpicks and marshmallows in a Jello base when they were doing seismology, and we had to wiggle it and see if we could build it so that it didn't collapse. And so there are fun exercises that you can do that are very informative and very educational and very impactful for the students as well, but that use just household items without having to have a full lab or the expenses that are involved. But we will give you more details as to exactly which labs will be utilized as Reba builds out her class. All right, so this is the amazing faculty and just one of the admin people that support us. You'll see the logo of Chesterton Schools Network, and behind that logo today is Adrian Alquist. Usually there's a whole bunch of people behind that logo: Kendra Posh, Rose, Sally. So one of the reasons that we are so confident in the ability for Chesterton Cor Jesu to launch successfully this year, even with all the uncertainty that's going on, is because we do have the support of the Chesterton Schools Network. And it is a firmly established organization that has a very, the structure that is there has been just really a strong support to our schools. And now we're bringing that same support to the online learning community. So that gives us confidence. I would never be able to, I know we're launching an online school, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but I would never be able to host a webinar like this in Zoom, but we have people who can do that. We have people who can help us with the back end and with the financials. And there's just so much support that we receive from the Chesterton Schools Network, just like the 33 member schools that we have in the network. So the Cor Jesu is the 34th school, I guess, if you will. So, yes, Amy.
I added a question from one of our family members. What math class should a sophomore take who has only had Algebra 1?
So if the sophomore has only had Algebra 1, we really recommend that they go back and do the geometry class. It's not unusual for sophomores to do geometry. We do it early on, but there's such a strong philosophy component, and our students are going to all be doing Philosophy 9. So basically what that means is Philosophy 9 is a survey course, and Stefan alluded to it just very briefly, but don't get me started because we only have a few more minutes, but the Philosophy 9 class is just beautiful, all right? I'm just gonna say that. You start, the summer reading is Edith Hamilton and mythology, and you start at this point where we know humanity departed from looking at myths and this mythos type of experience and looking towards natural reason with Thales, and we explore that moment with the Meander River, and we just go from that very basic first initial looking at the world, and you go all the way from there to Aristotle coming up with the prime mover, realizing that all of this must have been created by one being that's full act and all good. And just like Stefan said, they're rummaging around in the dark, but it's amazing how far they got, right? So it's a beautiful journey that the students go on, and the Euclidean geometry fits so beautifully into that philosophical journey. Obviously, we're studying the ancient world, and history provides that framework, but really that Philosophy 9 class provides sort of the intellectual framework of the questions that people are asking, and all of the classes tie into that. And you have the Euclidean geometry, you have the pre-Socratic philosophers who did the astronomy and were doing this physical science. And then all of the other classes tie into that. So it's just a beautiful arc that we create in ninth grade, and we want to give some of that arc to the 10th graders. We understand they're moving forward with the curriculum and into the world of the incarnation, but we are giving them some of that conversation by giving them Philosophy 9. And if they have not yet had geometry, I would say do the geometry class first and then go into Algebra 2 after. So for the philosophy class, we had a question. We are only offering Philosophy 9, and it's a lengthy answer that I'll truncate and try and be very brief. Philosophy 9 is a survey course and an introduction to logic. Survey course means they study various philosophers throughout history. In 10th grade, we go more in depth with those philosophers, and we read the Republic, we read the Nicomachean Ethics. And we thought that it would be more beneficial for those 10th graders starting with the program to have the Philosophy 9 class, the survey, than to go in depth about things that they don't really know the full context. So there is no Philosophy 10 class being offered. And for those sophomores who are taking Philosophy 9, they'll go straight to Philosophy 11. So I think we are caught up on the questions in the chat box. Kim, Reba, Stefan, Amy, any final thoughts, questions? Comments?
Just that, thank you, Andrew. Great job. And to all of our panelists, we're so thankful you could spend time with us and our families. And just to know that we'll be continuing to send out resources. And I know there's other very practical questions out there. How do I make monthly payments? Which class, specific classes does my student need to take based on their situation? All those questions we will answer in the coming days. So just stand by, watch your emails, and reach out to us when you have other questions.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you to the faculty for being part of Chesterton Cor Jesu. And I just look forward to working with everyone, and it's going to be an exciting endeavor and a really exciting year. And I'm just so thankful that we get to bring such amazing, talented people to a wider audience. You guys don't know this because I haven't shared it yet, but I got an email from Ireland this morning. Someone is signing up in Ireland. Many people already know we're starting a Chesterton Academy in Iraq next year. So really this Chesterton Academy experience is going all over the world, and we'll have some international students already in our first year. And we're very excited for this wider audience, for the Chesterton curriculum, and for our wonderful faculty.